No. No. Don't do it. Don't turn me into a marketable plushie. Ah! Oh man. It's just a dream.
That's right. After years and years of requesting, we're happy to say that we finally have an official plush available through Makeshift. Made from ultra soft fleece and standing at 9 inches or 23 centimeters, you can find the official Little G plush at makeshift.com/product/Gaijin Goombah plush, or check out the link in the description. He won't rattle off about culture in games, ninjas, or yokai, but he's a limited time must for any diehard fan.
But why a limited time?
Well, because the window to pick up one is only between now and November 20th. Plus, in order for this guy to hit production, 200 pre-orders need to drop. So if you've ever wanted a cuddly little G for your own, now is the time. Head on over to makeshift.com or hit up the link in the description to pre-order your own little G today. Hey, dude, calm down. I don't know what you're so worked up over. I think your new look is great.
New look? What new look?
Hey everyone, Gaijin Goombah here, and today... Are you okay down there, man?
Sorry, just not used to the new look yet.
Well, you said you wanted to redesign.
Whatever. So, aside from giving me a heart attack, what sort of culture and gaming are we breaking down today?
Well, with Halloween still fresh in people's minds, our patrons want us to look into a rather unusual connection between Little Nightmares 2, a puzzle platformer with huge horror themes and very terrifying designs, and one of the most horrifying yokai ever to grace Japan, the Rokuro-kubi.
What? How in the heck are Rokuro-kubi even remotely scary? Have you not seen these things lately? Nearly every iteration of them for the last 20 years has been nothing short of charming, adorable, and for some artists a tad itchy. So I'm sorry, in what world is Rokuro-kubi feared? Okay, point proven.
Yeah, I get the fact that Rokuro-kubi has seen a modern resurgence as a benevolent-ish yokai, but Little Nightmares just drags that horrific image back to its Edo and pre-Edo period personification. And they do it with one of the most peculiar antagonists of the franchise, the teacher. But I'm getting ahead of myself. For those of you unfamiliar with the Little Nightmares franchise, don't worry, because even I still kinda am after all this research. But the theoretical long and short of it is, in this parallel world to our own, children are being hunted down by all the adults who have been physically and mentally twisted into abominations. For some unknown reason, though, children are immune to it. Now, some adults were transformed by mysterious transmission of TV and radio broadcasting from the Signal Tower, controlled by a Lovecraftian horror of flesh dubbed the Eye, while others theoretically have been corrupted into monsters directly from the Eye's influence. Probably.
Theoretically? Probably? Dude, it either is or isn't. Isn't it?
Well, that's the thing about the Little Nightmares franchise. Much like Five Nights at Freddy's and its derivatives, Little is actually explained in this game, and it's mostly left to the players to try and piece together what the story of this Tim Burton-esque world is. I mean, it's also open-ended that if you were to do a YouTube search for videos on Little Nightmares, I promise you that at least 90% of them are pure narrative theory crafting. But I promise you I will keep it as simple as I possibly can, because when it comes to the antagonist adult character, the teacher, I really can't help but think there might be some Japanese folklore connection between the Rokuro-kubi and what we know from this character in game. Well, besides the obvious, of course.
On the surface level, I get that, but you sure? Like, how much Japanese theming is even used in this franchise?
Quite a bit, actually. In the first Little Nightmares game, the main antagonist, known only as the Lady, is very obviously Japanese themed, with her Shimato-style hair, her plain kimono with a large obi that sits under her bust and just below her navel, you know, the style that just about every other female kimono has, and her kimono even has the obi-jime and the obi-dome, which is iconic for a lady's kimono. And the domain that she controls, the Maw, is very obviously themed as a Japanese restaurant, from the Kawarayane roofing tiling, to the shoji walls, to the various byobu dividers scattered throughout the rooms. Though it's not omnipresent in the entire game, there is definitely a flair of Japanese theming when it comes to the series' main antagonist, and the latter parts of the first game. So would it be so hard to believe that there isn't another character in this franchise that has Japanese folklore theming as well? I mean, for crying out loud, there's even free DLC of Kitsune and Tengu masks for the main character, so yeah, this game has a lot of Japanese cultural theming going for it, monstrous or otherwise.
Fair enough. So then, what exactly makes the teacher folkloric? Because according to the game's website, quote, misbehavior will not be tolerated in the teacher's classroom, and nothing escapes her cold, twisted gaze. In her domain, children should be seen and not heard, and if one should be heard, they'll never be seen again. And in her Twitter description, it says, the teacher is a, quote, educator with an unusual ability to detect troublemakers. Her class is full of well-behaved children. As far as her physical description goes, the teacher dresses like a stereotypical school marm from the 1920s, with a constantly smiling face and eyes that never blink. I assume to make sure that she always has an eye on her children. And then there's her horror trademark, the ability to stretch her neck out into impossible lengths so nothing is outside her field of vision. And, ugh, yeah, now that I see more of it, that's pretty freaking gross and terrifying. She's very much how most kids would see a teacher. Nice on the outside with her constant smile, but mean on the inside. As in game, she actively terrorizes the bully porcelain children she's attempting to teach. I mean, after all, her true full name is the Sadistic Teacher, and boy does she live up to that name. Some fans have speculated that before the appearance of the eye and the signal tower's corrupting transmissions, she was actually a human teacher who had a passion for her work and her hobbies. And that kinda shows in game. Where normally she's scribbling on the chalkboard and slapping her ruler at children, she's also working on human biological lessons, as well as being seen playing and writing music. So one might assume that there's still some humanity left in her, but make no mistake, any kid she sees causing trouble, well, that's the last thing they'll ever do. Finally, despite her only being active in Little Nightmares 2, she actually appears in every single game of the franchise. She has a portrait in Little Nightmares 1 DLC within the Maw, there's a hint of her with the Hanging Man and the Pretender in the Nest in Very Little Nightmares the mobile game, and there's even a side story involving the teacher in the Little Nightmares comics. So she's a pretty pivotal plot character similar to the lady. So Rokudo Kubi obviously shares traits with the teacher, with the whole neck stretching thing as well as scaring the ever-loving crap out of people, but what other connections do they really have?
Well, here's the thing about Rokudo Kubi. They aren't some monster that masquerades as a human woman, they were human women. Rokudo Kubi are a result of a kind of Buddhist karma lycanthropy. They're regular human women who've been cursed either from the evil actions of their own or their families. And just like were creatures who lose control of their own actions and end up doing horrible things at night, only to wake up the next day not knowing what they've done, once a woman with the Rokudo Kubi curse goes to sleep, her neck elongates and her head takes on an independent, monstrous mind of its own. That being said, there are plenty of other stories later on in the Edo period that talked about Rokudo Kubi having their elongated necks and monstrous disposition 24/7, as seen in various flavors of art of the time period. But most of the older stories do say that a Rokudo Kubi doesn't go on a rampage until their human side slumbers. Now, the actions of the Rokudo Kubi range from mildly inconvenient and creepy to downright dangerous. Rokudo Kubi were known to viciously hunt and consume rats and bugs, but they were also known to consume lantern oil, a rare and expensive commodity as man-made lights were rare in old Japan. As for human interactions, in most cases Rokudo Kubi would only go about scaring people, but in other tales they would actively attack and bite at people with intent to kill. When the Rokudo Kubi cursed woman awakened from the night's sleep, she would have zero recollection of what she did. Because of this, a villager town that discovered the identity of the Rokudo Kubi would publicly shame and ostracize not only the woman, but her entire family. Not only because of the terror that they cause, but because of the foreknowledge that they or their family did something terrible to be karmically cursed. In worst case scenarios, families would sell their daughters into brothels and freak shows, and some would even convince their daughters to take their own lives rather than live with the shame of their curse.
Yikes.
Yeah, it's a rough time. Now, let's look back at the teacher. As we've stated, several fan theories suggest that the teacher was once a regular adult human teacher. But through the corruption of the eye or the broadcast, she had been transformed into a monster. In a similar way, Rokudo Kubi were originally ordinary women who were cursed through the negative karma of herself or her family and transformed into a monster. The teacher, like the Rokudo Kubi, is not herself, but a transformed perversion of herself. I don't have any hard evidence to back it up, so maybe you Little Nightmares fans can fill in the blanks. But could it be possible that the teacher, back when she was human, had a bit of a sadistic streak already in her, and the transformation into a twisted version of herself personified that wickedness? I mean, that's the theory going around with the lady, isn't it? Her evil actions are twisting her mirrored visage into what she's truly becoming, despite never aging a day? Either way, despite being a monster, both Rokurokubi cursed women and the teacher in-game both go through their daily activities like regular people, doing their regular daily tasks and enjoying their regular hobbies, unaware or uncaring about their actions as they have their duality of day-to-day life and then their monstrous activities. It's in the actions while their necks are extended where the monstrous nature of the teacher and the Rokurokubi shines through. I cannot, for the life of me, help but see a parallel to how the teacher hunts and attacks Mono, the player character from Little Nightmares 2, and how Rokurokubi behave when they hunt for food or attack people. With only one exception that I've seen, the teacher will 9 times out of 10 extend her neck to bite at Mono in order to capture and or eat him, even when he's within arm's length. This imagery is strikingly similar to how Rokurokubi hunt and attack, quickly extending their neck and biting at insects or rodents to capture them, because the only part of the Rokurokubi that is actually a monster is the head and neck. There's no autonomous control with the rest of the body. Watching Mono wriggle in the teacher's mouth as she neck stretch ambushes him, I just can't get those similarities out of my head.
I mean, that's fair. If you were to describe the nature of Rokurokubi heads running amok at night, I think sadistic would be a good choice of words. Rokurokubi delight in scaring the crap out of and attacking people, not so unlike the sadistic teacher. But is there anything more concrete that would connect these two?
Just one specific folk story that I found in my research. In the Yomihon Buddhist ethic book, Reikoku Kaidan Kiki Gaki Zoshi, there's written a story of a Buddhist monk from Inshu named Gaijin, who tossed away his vows and eloped with a woman named Oyotsu. But soon after they were together, Oyotsu developed an illness that would bankrupt them if a cure was sought out. So, rather than helping her, Gaijin killed Oyotsu and kept all the money for himself. Not long after, Gaijin traveled to an inn and became infatuated with the innkeeper's daughter, and the two spent the night together. But as the two lay together, the daughter's neck suddenly stretched long and her head snapped back, and her face contorted into that of the face of Oyotsu. The innkeeper's daughter turned Rokurokubi, screamed, and poured out her hatred and vengeance, both figuratively and literally, into the ears of Gaijin. Gaijin, realizing his evil actions after his horrendous ordeal, confided with the innkeeper about Oyotsu, his intentions with his daughter, everything. But, to his surprise, the innkeeper told Gaijin that he did the exact same thing. He too killed his lover, stole her money, and then used it to build this very inn. But the daughter that he and his lover had together was transformed into a Rokurokubi due to the family's horrid karma. Realizing all of this, Gaijin returned to his monastery and his priesthood and built a grave for Oyotsu, said to be called the Rokurokubi no Tsuka, or Rokurokubi Mound, sharing his harrowing tale with others who would heed his warning. Now, I know this might just be a wild theory, but let's be real here, half the enjoyment of Little Nightmares comes from wild theories. I think there's a connection between the Rokurokubi of this story and the teacher. Think about it. The Rokurokubi in this folk story was an instrument in horrifying the monk Gaijin back into the straight and narrow, right? Well, isn't that what the teacher does? I mean, she's got the exterior of a kind, middle-aged school marm, and the innkeeper's daughter had the exterior of a kind, beautiful girl, yet both of them show their true nature as supernatural horrors with elongated necks and terrifying dispositions who use their monstrous nature to scare people straight. And if their targets don't shape up, well, these two have something far more gruesome in store. It's like, not only do these two share the same physical and behavioral traits, but they also have the same ideological traits. Granted, in this Yomihon story, there's no talk of the daughter doing other Rokurokubi stuff like hunting rats and bugs or biting at people, you know, what the teacher does, but an omission of example isn't evidence of it not happening. We're just not told it in this particular narration.
Well, I guess it is a bit of a stretch, but considering this game is made by Bandai Namco, you know, a Japanese game company, and the already bountiful examples of Japanese folklore and design, yeah, I guess I could see where you're coming from on this one.
Boo! That was a terrible pun. I'm gonna go back to shilling your plush.
Ugh, get that thing away from me, it's creepy.
Again, if you want to get a little G plush all your own, check out makeship.com/product/Gaijin Goombah plush, or use the link in description to get yours today. Remember, it's only available till November 20th, and we gotta hit a 200 pre-order goal or else we can't get this lad made. So please be sure to check it out. In the meantime, a huge thank you to my patrons for making this video happen. I wasn't sure if we were ever gonna get this voted on, but y'all's timing could not have been better with Halloween. Thank you so much for keeping me financially independent so I can love this job all the more. And hey, a big thank you to my friend Monty Glue for the initial idea. Sorry, it took almost a year to see fruition, but either way, if you'd like to see even more culture and gaming analysis, sub up, get notified, and come check out our front page every second and fourth week of the month. We keep that schedule tight. But until next time, everyone, this is Gaijin Goombah, signing out.